Picture a world where the most powerful technology on Earth isn't a new machine you can point to. It's a system you can copy, deploy, and scale overnight. Right now, frontier AI is moving faster than the rules meant to contain it, faster than workers can retrain, faster than institutions can adapt, faster than the public can even agree on what's real, what's synthetic, and what should be trusted. And here's the problem. When a technology spreads before safety becomes enforceable, the costs don't show up evenly. They land on the people with the least leverage: workers, students, families, small businesses, while the benefits concentrate where the power already is. We've lived this pattern before. A breakthrough arrives, the upside gets celebrated, and the harm comes later. Slow at first, then all at once. The difference now is speed, because once this kind of system becomes embedded into jobs, schools, government, and infrastructure, "we'll fix it later" stops being a plan. It becomes a gamble. So the question isn't whether AI is good or evil. The question is whether we're building something too powerful to steer before we've agreed on the brakes. Because the stakes here aren't theoretical, they're structural, and that's what this presentation is about. Frontier AI is moving fast enough that the normal rhythm of build first, regulate later starts looking reckless. The whole idea here is simple: a temporary pause on scaling the most powerful models, not because technology is evil, but because the stakes are big and the safety rules are thin. The reason this topic matters is because it doesn't behave like a normal tech upgrade. It feels more like a shift in how society runs: work, information, security, even how people decide what's true. You can see the big theme right away. Innovation usually arrives before protection does, and when the gap is small, we patch things up later. When the gap is massive, the later part gets expensive, chaotic, and unfair, even fatal. The core claim is this: frontier AI capability is accelerating, but meaningful safeguards aren't keeping up, especially safeguards that are enforceable and not optional. A lot of safety guidance right now is voluntary, and a lot of policy messaging has leaned towards "don't slow down." That combination is danger. Speed becomes the priority, and responsibility becomes a suggestion. The pause idea is basically saying, stop scaling for a moment, build real guardrails, then move forward again. This is meant for people who aren't living in AI research labs: regular professionals, students, workers, voters, anyone who's watching this creep into everyday life and thinking, okay, who's steering? The goal isn't to turn everybody into an AI expert. It's to make the risks understandable and to make the pause idea sound like a reasonable and responsible decision instead of a panic reaction. Those examples you see are there for one reason. History repeats a pattern. Big innovations show up. People celebrate the upside. The harm shows up slowly at first, then all at once. Regulations often come after damage becomes visible, and early enforcement is usually weak. Think about factories and child labor, unsafe working conditions. Those weren't solved by good vibes or voluntary rules. They were solved because the harm became undeniable and laws got teeth. The worry is what happens if we run that same pattern with a technology that spreads everywhere before we've decided what safe enough even means. With earlier technologies, you could usually identify the machine and understand the limits. Frontier AI is different because capability can jump, and the systems can behave in ways that are hard to interpret. That black box problem matters because you can't regulate what you can't reliably measure. And when companies are rewarded for being first, there's pressure to push performance and reduce friction. That's why voluntary safety standards aren't enough. They can help, but they don't change incentives. Enforceable guardrails do. That jobs number you see is the part that hits people where they live. Exposed doesn't automatically mean everyone gets laid off tomorrow, but it does mean job tasks can change quickly, and the pressure to do more with less rises. Even when AI is described as augmentation, it can still mean deskilling, fewer entry-level roles, and heavier productivity expectations. And when the bottom rungs disappear, it becomes harder for people to climb into new careers. There's also the fairness problem. When productivity rises, the benefits don't automatically spread. Without policy, power tends to concentrate. Wages stagnate, profits rise, and inequality widens. So the pause isn't just about preventing a sci-fi scenario. It's about preventing a very normal, very human pattern where the gains go up and the support systems don't. A lot of the most important choices here are happening inside private companies, in competitive markets with investor pressure. That's not inherently evil. It's just how incentives work. But it means public safety, worker stability, and transparency aren't guaranteed outcomes. And there's also the geopolitical pressure. When nations see strategic value, the instinct is to race. So the pause idea is partly about stepping out of that reflex, because a race dynamic doesn't reward caution, it rewards speed. And speed is the opposite of careful governance. The key point here is that we can fix it later is not a plan once systems become embedded in everything. Once businesses, governments, schools, and infrastructure start depending on a capability, shutting it down becomes politically and economically painful. It stops being unplug it and starts being undo years of dependence. A pause during scaling is different, however. It's the window where safety checks, auditing, accountability, and workforce protections can actually be built while society still has leverage. After a technology becomes essential, leverage disappears. One common pushback is job displacement has always happened. People adapt. Well, that's true. Adaptation is real. The problem is the timeline. If change happens gradually, training and job markets can adjust. If change happens in compressed cycles, workers can't retrain fast enough and the social costs spike. Another pushback is, if it gets dangerous, we can stop. The issue is that copyable systems don't stay in one place, and incentives don't reverse easily. And once deployment is widespread, stopping becomes harder than starting. And the big optimistic pushback is, AI could solve huge problems, so slowing down is harmful. That is also true. AI could help with medicine, energy, and research, but high-stakes progress usually uses staged release and safety gates. That's not anti-innovation, it's just how responsible innovation works. A pause is basically the safety gate that we skipped. The takeaway is that society has a habit of building first and protecting later, and frontier AI is moving too fast for that habit to be safe. The risk isn't only some dramatic worst-case scenario, it's also the quieter stuff. Unstable job transitions, widening inequality, concentrated power, and rules that never catch up. The pause is a practical compromise. Stop the scaling race long enough to build enforceable safety standards and real worker protections. Then move forward with confidence instead of gambling. And the question hanging in the air is pretty straightforward. If something becomes too powerful to easily control, is it smarter to set the rules now or after it's already everywhere?